Chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight outside of speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
Alright, y'all. Can you hear me? Somebody in chat, please tell me that you can hear me. I hope that it's working. Somebody, please. Somebody tell me that you can hear me. Is my mic, like, matching my voice? Like, when I talk, does it match? Or is it, like, way off? Like, not even? Okay, good. It's good. All right. Good. Once again, as we always do here with NASA Spaceflight, we are trying new tricks. This is the first time. Yes, okay. Lots of people saying yes. Good deal. This is the first time we've been doing complete cloud production here. So we have 3 different people, actually 4 different people that are scattered all over the country. They're all connecting into the same virtual cloud server. Videos coming in, audio's coming in, our presentations coming in, and we're putting it all together for the first time in the cloud. So bear with us today if we have any issues. We are still ironing out some of the bugs. The cloud is even processing my green screen right now. Like, I'm sending a video that has a big green background behind it, and the cloud is actually keying out my green screen for me. So it's all on the server. It's a big new thing for us, and we're trying to see if we can make this work. But I apparently have to talk fast for NASA Spaceflight Live today because there's stuff going on, isn't there? We have later to talk about Perseverance, Expedition 63 EVAs, and then the Starship Raptor arrives. But before all that happens, Rocket Lab, in a very rare slip to the left, means the rocket launch happens earlier than they thought. Rocket Lab actually moved their Picture It Didn't Happen launch up a day to see if they could get it out of Dodge before the weather took them down. So are we, do we have video from them yet? Have they started their webcast yet? It looks like their webcast has started, but it's just on the little carbon fiber screen. So let's go ahead and introduce the other guest presenters who will be with me here today. Let's see if this scene's going to work. Please work. Every time I click something today, I'm just going to hope that it works. I'm going to click here and hope that we have everybody with the Rocket Lab graphic. Is that what I'm getting? I think it is. Okay. All right. So with me today, from the top of the stack on down, we have at the very top Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor for NASA Spaceflight. How's it going today, Chris? Unmute your mic if you muted it.
It's not my mic, so I don't know why I was told to mute it, but yes, I'm doing well.
All right. Good deal. Did anybody else hear Chris? Ian, did you hear Chris? I didn't hear Chris.
Oh, okay. Well, this is what I was trying to ask earlier. I don't know which microphone you want me to mute because I've got 2. So apparently you're getting my audio through Discord, not through everything we spent an hour setting up.
No, what just happened is the stream heard you, but we couldn't hear you because we're monitoring you on a different channel. So the stream was still able to hear you when you talked, I bet, is what happened. Chris is too loud. Yeah, okay, good deal. And look at this. Okay, the Rocket Lab stream is starting here as well. Really quickly, also, we've got Ian. I'll fix Chris's mic level too. But Ian right here. Ian, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
All right. I am
Great to be
doing
here.
fine. We're going to see if we can get a test from Rocket Lab. Now, I think that the Rocket Lab launch criteria, like the weather was not looking too good the rest of the week, and they actually pushed this launch up trying to avoid weather that's just worsening for the rest of the week. But according to Peter Beck, the dude in charge over there, it may still not go today, right? Anybody? Ian?
So they're tracking some possible bad weather. The next few days are really bad weather-wise, so they did a really rare moving forward of the launch. So there's a possible chance that it could launch today, but the weather might not cooperate. So we'll have to see, I guess. Gotcha.
And I have the ability to pipe through the audio from this, but it's the same thing we always run into where we don't want to talk over them. It looks like those closed captions may be on my end. Yeah, the closed captions are on my end there, so we can turn the closed captions off or on. Chris, how are you doing? What do you think about the launch that's happening today?
Well, hopefully everyone can hear me. This was a nice little surprise from Rocket Lab yesterday. It's definitely not.
It's all good. It's all good. We're doing a new setup here. I think we may be okay if we don't mute and unmute, but we'll see. Don't mute or unmute anymore. Just leave it the way it is. It works fine as long as you don't mute stuff.
Okay, we're just following instructions to mute everything earlier.
Yes, I got
so, anyway, what I was
Rocket Lab.
saying was this was a nice little surprise from Rocket Lab because we don't normally see launches pull forward that close to a launch attempt. We do every so often see them move forward by a day or two to preserve launch windows, or if they don't eat as much margin into their schedule as they do. But
Right.
but the fact that with about less than 24 hours to go, it was a surprise. We're on the pad. There's no technical reason we can't continue. They just decided to make a go of it. So very, very rare indeed. And I had to like the joke that they did yesterday with it too. We do what we want, or something along those lines on Twitter.
Yeah, he's
we
like,
don't
I have
follow
a
no
permit,
rules.
and the
Yeah.
permit just says we can do what we want.
We can do what we want. Yes, the permit scene from Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec.
Yes.
Yeah. What are they launching today? I mean, it's Pixar. It doesn't happen. I imagine there's some sort of camera on this somewhere.
Camera on the vehicle.
Yeah,
itself?
on the vehicle. I mean, it's like, what's the payload?
Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, gotcha. It's actually it's actually a multi-payload mission that's going up. We have a CBSat IB, which is a demonstration for Canon, just the camera company.
Right.
Canon Electronics Inc. They've got a new Earth imaging technology with high-resolution wide-angle cameras that they want to test out. So that's the first of the payloads. There's one of them that weighs about 50 kilograms. Then we have a series of flock satellites going up from Planet, which will add to the overall Super Dove satellites, little micro satellites that they have up in orbit that perform continuous optical monitoring of Earth's surface every single day. And then we have one called Faraday 1, which is a 6U CubeSat. That's going up from some research and development firms. It's basically a first flight demonstration to show that the software of the Faraday CubeSat actually works. Because what Faraday wants to do is offer these platforms for people. It's kind of like a plug and play. Like they build the CubeSat with all the electronics and all the software, and then other people can put their specific payloads on that. On them and have them flown at a very low cost. So those are the 7 satellites that are heading up to orbit today.
So, I mean, we're like less than 10 minutes away. Is this a long window? Is this an instantaneous thing? Like, what's going on today?
It's not an instantaneous window. They do have some time into there, and they did push a little bit further into the window for their initial attempt. The window originally opened at 17:13 Eastern Daylight Time, but they pushed that back by about 6 minutes to 17:19 or 17:18. And now they're going to be going a little bit into the window. So, but there is a window, so if weather isn't great right at the opening of it, they could push a little bit.
I mean, are we going to be sitting here for like 4 hours or anything, right? That's not the plan.
I really sincerely hope not. But this is spaceflight, so you never really know. The last update that we did get from Rocket Lab, at least via email, we haven't been listening to the audio of everything. But the window opens at 21:19 UTC here in about 7 or 8 minutes, and closes at 22:03. So it is less than so it's about a 45
minutes.
launch
Okay.
that we have today. So yes, at the very least, it will encompass all of NSF Live today if they be pushed outward toward the end here.
Gotcha.
But we can see they're at 7 minutes 50 seconds and counting. So there does not appear to be a hold. I would have assumed that we'd be holding at this point if the weather did look like it was going to get them. that they wouldn't have pushed as far into the count as they have. Rocket Lab usually doesn't count down and actually go for an attempt if the weather is iffy, because the thing you remember, Electron looks really huge when you're looking at it all by itself, but it's literally as tall as one of the landing legs of the Falcon 9 rocket. Not the Falcon 9, the landing leg of the Falcon 9. So Falcon 9, and that means it's much more susceptible to winds and to winds than other rockets are.
Gotcha. So, I mean, we're going to hang out here. We do have a regular NASA Spaceflight Live show today. Also, I am aware of the issues with some of the audio. We're working on the audio issues and stuff like that. Is it raining over there right now, Chris?
No, it is not.
It's not right now. Okay. There's like some background noise or something, but I can switch stuff around in here in just a second whenever we go. But we are going to do a regular NASA Spaceflight show. Basically, we're going to hang out here. We're watching Rocket Lab. The window opens. The launch is scheduled in 7-8 minutes right now, so we'll see if they go. And then we're going to play it by ear. If they say, well, it's going to be a hold and it's going to be another, we'll shoot for the end of the window, we'll pop into NASA Spaceflight Live. We'll do a bunch of the regular news stuff, like I said, Perseverance, the EVAs, all the stuff we normally do. And then we'll come back. We'll just sort of keep an eye on Rocket Lab because they were nice enough to schedule a launch right here in our normal launch, or our normal launch window. This is our window for NASA Spaceflight Live. So we are continuing to fix some of the audio issues here with the new setup. We're doing like a weird dual audio thing, so just bear with us, and I will continue working on that. So we're just hanging out. What else do we want to do in the next 5 minutes or so? 5:54, it looks like. There's no schedule right now. There's no like.
Yeah, I mean, if people have, well, I mean, I think the I think one of the first things we should do is actually open it up to questions about Rocket Lab, about Electron, about this company, about this mission.
Sure.
So if you've got any questions about this mission, go ahead and ask them in chat and tag us. Tag at NASASpaceflight in it. It's just easier for us to see because it highlights big and red and nice on our end. But yeah, as we wait out the final 5 minutes of this countdown, if you've got any questions about Electron and Rocket Lab, we'd be happy to go ahead and answer them for you.
Look at all the sheep.
They remind me of the rocket cows that SpaceX have in McGregor at their test site. You can see them running in the grasshopper videos.
Like, are they in an exclusion zone or something?
The sheep, yes. Yeah, you know, like Ian was saying, I love that. Like, we've got the rocket cows at McGregor, we have the space gators and space boars of the Kennedy Space Center, Canaveral Air Force Station, and we have the rocket sheep from Electron and Rocket Lab down there in New Zealand. Yes.
And we are also we're aware we're not playing the Rocket Lab audio right now. We're here. We're doing our own commentary. We know that a lot of times this dude is hanging out next to me. And he's talking, but we're not listening to him right now. We're just doing our own commentary. If you want to hear the Rocket Lab commentary, of course, that stream is there on YouTube as well. We just do our own thing whenever we have a remote feed that's sort of not our feed. We wanted to watch it with y'all. Every now and then I could just sort of translate what this guy is saying, but I'm not going to try that right now. And we are down to 4 minutes before the Rocket Lab window opens. So
we are indeed, and we have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Evan White wanted to know what is the engine type that this rocket uses. It uses 9 Rutherford engines that are part 3D printed, and also electric pump-fed engines. It uses 9 of those on the first stage, and it uses a vacuum-optimized version of the Rutherford for its second stage, and then the Curie kick stage, which is the optional third stage, which is usually used to perform orbit circularization operations, and where the payload actually deploys from top of, uses a different engine, and a much smaller one that doesn't need a lot of thrust to do those fine-tuned orbital.
And so it's a 3-stage rocket, like straight up 3 stages?
It's technically a two stage with the ability to add a third. Okay. So in this particular case, it's flying with 3, but its baseline configuration is just the 1.
Gotcha. So Electron is a 2-stage rocket, right?
Yes.
And it's got a third. Okay. Sort of like what's the Russian one that has a donut? It's a donut.
Oh, the Forgot on the Soyuz.
Thank you. This is
Yeah.
sort of the same sort of thing where
Yep.
that's almost part of the payload. That's the final stage when they need a little bit extra kick to get something somewhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I,
There's a
I
lot
s-
of sheep in that picture.
I know. Look at that.
I mean, is there like an exclusion zone for sheep or something? You'd think. I guess it's a smaller rocket, so it's a smaller exclusion zone.
Oh, I'm
how does
sure.
it
I'm
work?
sure they're in their paddocks and everything. Yeah. Out there.
They can't like approach the. Go ahead, Ian. What?
I saw another good question in chat. I believe it was Chris asking. So what's going on with the recovery program? Are they doing anything on today's flight? So no, they're not. For the recovery program, the past, I believe it was flight 10 and 11, they were doing data collection,
Right.
where they put a, I'm not sure what it's called, sort of like a black box on the rocket, and that would gather data as it descended through the atmosphere. They were testing entry testing up until the impact, and both of those were successful. And so right now they're working on the parachute, and they'll be testing that first on flight 17. So today's flight 13, so we're still a few, with Rocket Labs, we have no idea how far away that is. So we could be a few weeks away, a few months away, who knows. But so no recovery testing on this flight at all.
Okay, gotcha. So when you say recovery testing or recovery, this rocket has sort of a wacky way of recovering itself. It doesn't come back and land like SpaceX. It doesn't like sprout wings and fly. Don't they catch this thing with a helicopter?
Yes, so it will be deploying a parafoil, which is sort of, you could see those used today in people who do skydiving. There's sort of like U-shaped parachute, and so the stage will be coasting with that, and then a helicopter will come in and sort of scoop it out so it doesn't touch the ocean.
Right.
And if it doesn't touch salt water, it'll be much easier to refurbish, and so it'll be rapid turnaround for Rocket Lab.
Gotcha. And so don't the SpaceX fairings also use parasails? Is that the same sort of parachute they use?
Yep, that's it. I'm not sure with the size dimensions between them. There's probably a big difference because
Right.
a first stage versus a small fairing or a larger fairing.
Gotcha. Oh, dude, they actually have some cows too. Look, there are cows closer to the rocket than the sheep.
Indeed, and we are about just over 30 seconds away now from the liftoff of Electron here on mission number, I believe it's their 13th as well, right? Pixar didn't happen?
I think so.
This is
Yes.
This is 13, and this is our 13th NSF Live. What nice synergy. But yeah, let's sit back and watch those Rutherfords come up.
So I'm going to actually pipe the audio from the stream now so we can hear down to the countdown.
Perfect.
10, 9, 8,
Countdown with the
7,
accent.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I mean, it's going.
Oh, there we go.
They're
Yes.
shipping
go.
it.
Good luck, Electron.
Wow. I don't know if y'all can hear me right now, but that thing got out of Dodge once it started going.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah, Electron leaps off the launch pad. But if you are just joining us, this is live. Live views from New Zealand as Electron takes to the skies. It's a small rocket with a lot of power behind it. I think Brady Kennison, one of our photographers, was fortunate enough to be able to go to Mejia and actually photograph a launch, said we have about 1 second.
Into flight, we had a successful liftoff from Pad A at Launch Complex 1.
And I'm still piping
Next
the
up will
audio
be
through there.
Max
If you want me to
Q,
cut
which is
that,
the
let me
point
know.
when the rocket was under the maximum
And one
amount of
interesting,
aerodynamic stress during its ascent.
wait for him.
Vehicle is supersonic.
It just said vehicle was supersonic.
And max Q, so that's
Max
good.
Q.
So
Yeah.
we're going through maximum aerodynamic pressure. That's when the vehicle experiences the most aerodynamic load. So when it has the most pressure on it, and they throttle down the engines because if they didn't, the vehicle would get crushed like a spring, and we don't want that to happen.
Look at those upper level winds, though.
Oh,
look,
yeah.
at, look at how Electron is
It's
being
fighting.
hit. Yeah, look at that.
Here, I'm gonna actually put the closed captions on. It's Max Cube. It's just past Max Cube. Nice, of course. And the hiccups on the stream, like I'm actually getting those hiccups here, so that's not our relay. That's what I'm seeing from the Electron stream right now.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch it just like maneuver itself to fight against the upper winds,
Yeah.
especially earlier on.
Yeah. Amazing maneuverability there.
It really is.
Because you can see the contrail down below it. I mean, just still being just ripped apart by the wind. Amazing.
And you
this
can
is-
notice
so this
the,
is the plume expansion, sort of like the Falcon
Yep.
9 does, because it's not just one engine on the bottom. It's actually a cluster of engines. So you see each individual engine sort of getting its own little exhaust trail as the atmosphere gets thinner.
Exactly, and we are approaching staging now. You can see them about 55 kilometers in altitude now. So standing by to see Electron's first stage shut down and separate.
Yep.
oh, it looks like we have a, is that like a sticker peeling off there?
It seems like a sticker is coming off of it or something.
I mean,
Is
you
that
don't
like
need
the
it up here.
logo?
But that's certainly interesting.
That just looks like shutdown, and that's
Oh, there we
So
go.
there we go. Separation, and we have ignition on the vacuum engine, the Rutherford vacuum engine. So they are now onto the second stage, and that big gray box that looks like it's covered by tinfoil is one of the batteries that helps provide power to the Rutherford vacuum
Because
engine.
it's like a
Almost said a different engine.
it's a battery-powered
Um,
engine, isn't it? Like the fuel pumps or the
Yeah.
pumps that actually feed the fuel and the oxidizer to the engine. They're battery-powered. They're not like turbo pump powered like most every other engine we've ever dealt with. There goes a fairing, it looks like.
Exactly. Yep. The payload fairing's successful separation there, and you can see both of them falling away. Very nice on that camera view from the second stage there. But one of the cool things about Rocket Lab's launches is they do what's called a hot swap,
Right?
where while one set of batteries is about to be depleted, they instantly switch over to the second set, and once that can be verified, they jettison the spent battery because it's weight and mass that's no longer needed. So we'll actually get to see those. This one disappear from view
Right.
here in the hot swap and ejection. Wonderfully unique thing to the rocket to a rocket lab.
And we'll see, like the little tinfoil box, we'll see that box actually get jettisoned, right? It's going to go away.
Yeah.
And so that's the normal thing. Once those batteries are depleted, because it's using those batteries to drive those pumps to feed the engine right now. And once the battery's drained, they literally don't want to carry the mass of the battery anymore. We won't get into the argument whether or not a battery weighs more when it's charged or not. Have you ever thought of that? Like, does a charged battery weigh more than a battery that's not charged? I'm not getting into that right now.
I don't even want to know.
I don't even want to think about, do electrons have mass?
Law of conservation. No.
I don't
even
even want to go there. But they don't want to carry the battery structure anymore, so they're actually going to just jettison it. And are the batteries recovered, or they just sort of jettison them in the
Nope.
ocean, or what?
No. They're not really worth it at that point because they're just such a small component, and putting shielding and parachutes on it would be probably too much.
Yeah.
And I think it's that second part that you hit on there, Ian. That's the most important. At this velocity, right? I mean, they're 180 kilometers up, going over 12,000 kilometers an hour when these batteries are jettisoned.
Right.
They burn up in the atmosphere. I mean, they're above the atmosphere right now, so they're destroyed.
Yeah.
On re-entry.
So we're about 90 seconds away from the battery hot swap. The closed captions are good because I can read the closed captions and be like, no, we're about 90 seconds away.
And the closed captions, I gotta say, are remarkably accurate.
I remember seeing on the last launch there was an issue because it was picking up the New Zealand accent, so I was getting confused on some of the words. So it was really.
Those are just the YouTube auto captions. Like that's
Yeah.
that's all YouTube. So extruders. I don't know what extruder 190. 0.8 cloves. We jinxed it, Chris.
We totally
When I-
did.
When I bloomed per second. Now the
Oh,
closed
dear.
captions are just like.
Is
wow.
I'm sorry, did the stream freeze?
The telemetry is still going. You see the Electron telemetry? But I'm not getting video anymore.
That's
Oh no, the
good.
telemetry's slowing down.
That's not
Oh.
good.
It is slowing
no. Bring up the audio. Bring up the audio.
Yeah, let's see.
It looks like they just froze it now.
Wow. It's still going down the kilometers and the speed, or nope. The speed is going up slowly, but
This
the
is
altitude is going
Channel
down.
stations on mission court. Initiating SAP response line.
I didn't hear what that was.
I didn't hear that either.
So as you can see, Electron is at 13,700
Stand by.
kilometers per hour. Is 191 kilometers above the Earth's surface as we're waiting for battery hot swap.
They're waiting for the battery hot
Oh, dear.
swap. The altitude is still dropping, but the speed is increasing slowly. That could just—I don't know if that would be because it's falling
Well, if
down.
the as the
Speed is-
altitude
speed
drops,
is-
the speed would be increasing.
Yeah.
The speed needs to be increasing a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's like a
Something has-
parabolic arc.
Something has gone wrong.
Yeah, let's see.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
dear.
So that was supposed to be the battery hot swap was the information that he just gave us.
That would have been the next event, and it looks like the engine's not even firing if there still is an engine.
Yeah, the altitude is dropping a lot more quickly now. You see that?
Yep, so it's coming back.
Yeah.
Let's see
Oh,
what
dear.
it does. Hopefully it's a telemetry problem.
At this time,
Oh,
it looks
yeah.
like the signal for our video feed has become too weak to receive. However, we are still receiving good telemetry from Electron. So we're going to switch over to mission control, and we'll provide updates throughout the rest of the mission.
They're getting good telemetry from Electron there. Maybe that telemetry that they were displaying wasn't correct or something, because he just made
Maybe
it sound like that was good telemetry.
Maybe it's like a simulation based on what's supposed to be happening in the mission. I don't know.
Certainly, it shouldn't be dropping like that for real in the
Yeah.
mission, right?
I would hope it's just a
No.
telemetry issue.
No.
Yeah.
If it's a downlink issue, that's okay. But if that telemetry that was on our screen was
Right.
correct, there's been a failure and they've lost it.
Right.
But they did say good telemetry, so
Let's see what they say. Let's
Wait
see
and
what
see.
happens.
No one seems panicked or antsy, especially Peter in the background. So
Yeah, he's got the hair back there, right?
Yeah, he's the one with
Right
the
here?
red lights next to him.
Yeah, yeah. That should capture my mouse. That does. Good. So just over
But it
8.5
seemed-
minutes
but it
into
also-
flight here. Go ahead.
I thought they were saying something from Rocket Lab. It seemed the telemetry hiccup seemed to occur very close to when they were expecting battery hot swap.
Right.
Which makes me wonder if we're good, we're good. I hope we're good. But
I don't see anybody like frantically at their keyboard. I mean, the guy in the lower corner over there, he looks a little pensive, like.
Yeah.
know? But we'll see what they say. The last thing.
You gotta look
the
for people
announcer
looking
came on and said
antsy or like.
Yeah. Good telemetry. I mean, that one guy's not like tapping his foot crazily, like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
But here's the thing: Electron should be in orbit.
Yeah, it says right here on the left, kick stage separation should
Yeah.
be happening now.
Yep.
And we have no confirmation from Rocket Lab. The audio from Rocket Lab is up.
It is up, and the closed captions are still on, so if they say something, it should appear on the
Okay.
screen. But just
Yeah,
no information right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Electron should be in orbit, but no confirmation.
Let's. So what do we want to do here? I mean, they're probably going to give us an update. Are we staying? We're staying with it until they tell us what's going on. Certainly, they're not going to wait another 10 minutes before they say what's going on, right?
They are a private company. They are free to do whatever they wish and handle this however they deem necessary. This is one of these things in the era of private spaceflight. From companies, they technically don't have to tell us anything if they don't wish to.
Right.
But this is not good. Electron should be in orbit. We had telemetry indications on screen that were indicating an engine shutdown and a falling altitude with an increasing velocity, but not correlated to how some vehicles go past apoapsis, so their altitude technically falls as they finish the launch phase, which some rockets do utilize. Electron does not really utilize that.
It doesn't have like it doesn't coast and do like a high. It doesn't have stages like that.
No,
It
and
just
the
goes.
the last velocity indicator was 13,000 kilometers an hour,
Stations mission control.
which is
Hey, stand by.
nowhere.
Stations and mission control.
This is Mission Control in Auckland. It appears we have lost our video feed for today's mission. Without these beautiful views from launch, we're going to end today's webcast here, but stay tuned to social media for our updates. Thanks again for joining us for another Electron mission.
All right.
Okay.
They're just shutting it down. They just said they lost the video feed, and without the beautiful views, they were going to go ahead and end the webcast. So twitter.com/rocketlab, back in the control room. I guess we'll keep refreshing that and see if we get a thing. You know, get an update from Rocket Lab. Wow. Yeah. So we will.
Yeah.
we'll continue to monitor that, and if we get an update, we'll bust into the normal show and get an update from Rocket Lab. But they just shut down their feed, really making it sound like it was just a telemetry dropout or a video feed dropout or something like that, more than anything else.
But what concerns me about that is if it was just a video feed dropout and they really did have telemetry from the vehicle, they would have been able to confirm orbit insertion. They would have been able to confirm. They would have been able to confirm stage separation, battery hot swap. They would have been able to confirm period kick stage separation. So. I know they sounded upbeat and positive about that, but
yeah, I guess
30 years watching this, Dad knew I would not necessarily be holding my breath for a great outcome.
Well, we'll stand by. I'm actually going to bring up the Rocket Lab Twitter feed here, and I'll refresh it on occasion. Chat, if y'all see an announcement or anything like that come from Rocket Lab, let us know. Feel free to type over there if you see something. But the information that we saw, it didn't look too great there, but we'll wait until we get an official word from Rocket Lab on that. We'll let you know if we get an update. Moving right along, though, we are going to continue on with our regular NASA Spaceflight Live, right? Y'all ready to do that?
Let's go.
All right. So before we get started here, I know we've been doing a little bit of experimental stuff. We've been having some audio difficulties. I know we've been trying to dial it in and make it a little bit better. Chat, I'll ask you. I always say that you're part of our remote production team. How are we doing right now? Like, is this unwatchable? Can you not, you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I can't even deal with this. Or have we dialed it in enough that we're good to go now? I think we just have to switch around some microphones and stuff like that in the future. But I am curious from y'all. I know it might not be straight up to the same level that we normally do, but we will try to see if there's something that we can make this better. I've been working on it here as we were watching, right? There's still lots of static. It's watchable. It's a little sizzly. Audio's better than the Russian segment. What? I'm a little bit quiet. It's a little bit rough. It may need that we just need to switch around some different microphones and stuff like that. Give me 60 seconds and we're gonna get some ground truth on this, right? So right now, as of right now, this is checkpoint A. How is the audio? Is it still fizzy? Is it still poppy? Or did it get fixed? At checkpoint A, is this better? Or is this nothing changed? Let me know. Of course, we get some people say quality is good, and we get other people say that it's fizzy and static. This comes down to different people having different speakers. A static, A fizzy, A is good, nothing changed, A is slightly better, it's better than before, static, no change, yeah. So this is like all over the map. When we do this, this is going to be checkpoint B. So now on checkpoint B, is checkpoint B any different than checkpoint A? Let me know on that one, if that is any better. Because of hissing, it's okay from here. Still the same, perfect audio, worse a bit, sounds no different, no changes, no changes, no changes. Okay, so that's good information for me. All right, last thing, and then we're going to get into the news here. This is going to be checkpoint C, but you're not going to be able to hear me talking in checkpoint C. So I'm going to do this, and y'all tell me if this is better. So it is coming from my microphone somewhere. It's mostly gone. It's much better. It sounds good. It's much better. Ah, yes. Okay. So I can handle that on my end. That's something that I can deal with. Most people say that the fizzing is better. You hear the wind. Other people say it's no difference. Yeah, I had to turn it back on. Yes, I had to turn it back on. Again, we appreciate the help with that. We checked out some stuff. Apparently something didn't quite come through correctly. But let's just move on with the rest of NASA Spaceflight Live. And I will try to manage that audio as I can. It may be because I'm trying to pull mine up too much there. But let's move on with this and talk about what we have today. Chris, Ian, thank y'all for bearing with me there. Are y'all ready to go?
I'm good.
Sure am.
Okay, so we're going to start. Like I said, we got a couple different things to talk about today. Perseverance, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about. Expedition 63 EVAs up at the space station. They've been getting out and about, doing some work on the space station. And then Starship's Raptor arrives. Down at Boca Chica, we've got some news from Boca Chica. So let's go ahead and get started. I think we're starting off with This Day in History. And Chris G, that's you. Take it away.
It is indeed me, and Doss, we're going to go through this a little quick, because I know we've got some time constraints here. So a lot actually has happened in space history on July 4th, and I thought it would be really cool to go through them, including the very, very first one, which might come as a bit of a surprise. It's actually a supernova that was first observed here on Earth on the 4th of July, 1054, and it is the supernova that created what is today the Crab Nebula. This is noticeable, and that's the Crab Nebula right there, and this is notable for a really large reason because it's one of the only supernova, and that was thunder that just hit. That was thunder that just hit, sounding like a sonic boom here at my house. But anyway, it's one of the only supernova where we can actually pinpoint the exact date that it occurred, when the light from it reached Earth. So we know with astonishing accuracy how old this nebula actually is, and it has been a treasure trove of scientific data for astronomers and scientists around the world. One of the most photographed astronomical objects as well outside of our solar system. And first appeared on the 4th of July, 1054, noted by Chinese astronomers. We also, thus, moving along to STS-4, today was the landing of the fourth and final of the shuttle test flights. Columbia landed successfully at Edwards Air Force Base in California. That's a picture of the two-person crew. And then we have a landing picture here again of Columbia touching down on the dry lake bed. This concluded the flight test series for the shuttle, after which it was declared operational and began its 30-year storied career. And moving along, DOS, another shuttle event on this day, STS-71. And we got two pictures here. So STS-71 and the Space Shuttle Atlantis undocked from the Russian Mir space station on this day in 1995. And this is a picture from a crewed Soyuz vehicle. They actually put crew in a Soyuz, undocked from Mir, and backed out to this location specifically to photograph and video Atlantis undocking from Mir. And if we go to the next photograph here, DOS, as well, this was the first time that we ever got to see a space shuttle docked to another vehicle from the perspective of another crew vehicle, and also the first time we got pictures of a vehicle undocking from a space station, a shuttle vehicle undocking from a station. Moving right along as well, if you fast forward 2 years from 1995, the Sojourner mission arrives at Mars, and Pathfinder and Sojourner successfully touch down onto the Martian surface. This is a picture of Sojourner, a little 6-wheeled rover that was supposed to last 7 days. It ended up lasting 83 on the Martian surface, setting a record at the time. And if we go to the next one, this is actually a panoramic that was taken from the Pathfinder lander of Carl Sagan Memorial Station. Again, those two vehicles touching down on the surface of Mars on the 4th of July, 1997. If we fast forward again to way, way out in the solar system, we also had another deep space event when the Deep Impact emissions slammed into Comet Tempel 1 on July 4th, 2005. This is a picture taken at the moment that the impactor hit Comet Tempel 1. The spacecraft then flew through the ejecta, gathering scientific data about the composition of the asteroid, or of the comet underneath its surface. And then finally, we have July 4th, 2006, arguably for me one of the best fireworks displays I have ever seen. The launch of Space Shuttle Discovery on the STS-121 mission. This was the second return to flight mission after the Columbia accident, the one that proved out all of the safety upgrades and features to the external tank, and also completed the testing sequence of the on-orbit repair techniques that were developed for the shuttle if it were ever to need them after the Columbia accident. It was the only human spaceflight mission to launch on the 4th of July from the United States. And it was actually an international crew of 6 Americans and 1 European astronaut who was going back to the International Space Station to increase its crew size back to 3. And there you have this day in space history.
Can I just keep watching the launch? I mean,
You can if you want.
it's a shuttle launch. I can't stop the video of the shuttle launch. That's crazy.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. Alrighty. So we'll pull everybody back together really quickly, and I'm just going to leave this up while we talk about the next segment. Again, y'all, I'm continuing to work on the audio here as we go, but I'm trying to see what I can do to make it better. So just bear with me in terms of this. Again, this is the first time we're trying to make we were trying to make a streaming server in the cloud so that anybody can do it without having special hardware or a studio or anything like that. That's what we're working on. This is the first time we've done this completely in the cloud like this, and the cloud is giving us some audio difficulty because the microphones are a little bit more sensitive when the cloud server is reading them directly, I guess. So we're working on it, and I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. The next thing we're going to talk about here today, I'm just talking so we can continue to watch the space shuttle fly. The next thing we're going to talk about here is Perseverance. But is that spelled correctly? It's always so hard to spell that correctly, right, Ian?
I think that's correct. Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, that's
Did y'all hear
correct.
how
Yeah.
I spelled it when I just said it out loud? Sort of the joke. Let's move on to talking about Perseverance here, starting with the render of Percy on Mars. You good to go, Ian?
I'm good to go.
All right, so there you go. Take it away.
Yeah, so the Perseverance rover, which will be NASA's next Mars rover, it's a follow-on to the Curiosity mission. It's been experiencing a few delays over the past few weeks. The first of which occurred in June, when there was an issue with ground support found for the Atlas V rocket, and so they wanted 2 days to be able to examine that and go over any repairs that would be needed. And then additionally, there was another 2-day delay earlier this month, or later in June, sorry, when there was an issue with encapsulation of the Perseverance rover into the Atlas's fairings. And then the third delay, which happened just a few days ago, was found when there was an issue with a liquid oxygen sensor on the Atlas V rocket. And that was found during the wet dress rehearsal. And what that is when they rolled the rocket, the Atlas V rocket, out to the launch pad without Perseverance on top. They filled it up with fuel and did a complete rehearsal of the launch day countdown all the way up until T0, where at T0 they stopped and they defueled the vehicle and they looked over all the data. And because of the wet dress rehearsal, they were able to find an issue that normally they would have only found on launch day. And so it shows how useful the wet dress rehearsals could be, because if that issue was found on launch day, it may have actually required them to stand down the launch this year and move to the next transfer window in 2 years. So the Perseverance rover is now scheduled for July 30th launch from Cape Canaveral on an Atlas V rocket. This will be the...
Second for me real quick. We have a thing from Rocket Lab.
Oh, all right.
Rocket Lab update. Okay.
It's on their Twitter account. An issue was experienced today during Rocket Lab's launch that caused the loss of the vehicle.
Oh.
We are deeply sorry to the customers on board Electron. The issue occurred late in the flight during the second stage burn. More information will be provided as soon as it becomes available. So that is confirmation that we did lose Electron on its third flight. 13th flight on its 13th flight.
That's unfortunate, yeah.
Gosh.
Very unfortunate. But anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't want
no
to
problem.
interrupt
Yeah,
you,
it's
but I saw
important
that
news.
come across.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chris. Thanks for the update there.
Yep. All right,
There you
so...
go.
Okay, so, yep, you can see here, this is the Atlas V. It looks pretty weird. It looks like it's missing its head, because Perseverance is not on top of it, and that's why it has a sort of flat cutoff there with a cover over it. That's where the Perseverance rover would end up. And so you can see there, that's the Atlas V just before the wet dress rehearsal, which took place a few weeks ago. And so the Perseverance rover is a follow-on to the Curiosity mission. It's actually a near-carbon copy of the Curiosity rover, and it even uses a few spare parts from when they built Curiosity. But some of the differences are that Perseverance will have better wheels, because they have found issues with Curiosities they've seen that the wheels start to degrade over time, which is something you don't want on a rover mission. And And also it'll have a complete new suite of instruments, and it will also be carrying a small helicopter named Ingenuity. And the Ingenuity helicopter is a tech demonstrator. It's the first time any vehicle will be flown on a planet other than Earth. And it's a small satellite or a small helicopter about the size of a shoebox or so. And it doesn't really have much of a purpose besides testing out flight on Mars, but also scouting for new sites for Perseverance. So while Perseverance is off doing scientific data or downlinking data to Earth or examining the area around it, Ingenuity can be off flying hundreds of meters ahead of it, just scouting new sites to see if it might be interesting or worthy of study by Perseverance. So Ingenuity will be a twofold mission. So it'll be studying flight on another planet, but it'll also be expanding the science envelope for Perseverance. And so this is scheduled for launch in July 30th, and it will be landing on Mars in February of 2021 at the Jezero crater. And so that's Perseverance.
All right, did I miss any of the pictures you wanted to show there? There was an awful lot of pictures in there, and I was trying to bring up
there
the
were
right
a lot.
ones at the right
Yep,
time.
that's okay. I think we got all of them. Yep.
Hey, just really quickly, I didn't bring this one up. What is the deal with the medical worker plaque? There's a
Okay, the
thing
medical
here
worker
that
plaque.
says-
So
yeah, what is
NASA fabricated that to install on the rover as a sort of a bit of an honor towards the medical workers fighting COVID-19. And so you can see that they've installed that on the side of the rover. I'm not sure how large it is. I think it's around the size of maybe a cell phone or so, but I haven't seen any scales for it.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, that is Ian with the update on Perseverance. And next up, we're going to talk about some EVAs that were happening up at the space station this week. Chris G, tell us what's going on with these, what was it, Expedition 63? Is that where we're at?
Yes, indeed. So this was a cool series of spacewalks. The first one is a video DOS
Sure.
that I got up so we could kill the audio on it because I'm just going to talk over it for a little bit. But this series of spacewalks that began in late June were are the beginnings of the final series of 4 spacewalks that will complete a station battery removal and replacement operation that has been underway for about 3 years aboard the orbital outpost. So when the station's huge integrated truss structures were first launched, they were launched with what were known as nickel hydrogen batteries. And those have been up in orbit since 2000, the earliest one on the P6 truss, and since 2006 for the rest of the truss elements and onward. And while those nickel hydrogen batteries have lasted really long, NASA wanted to upgrade the power distribution system on board the station and replace those nickel hydrogen batteries with more efficient lithium-ion batteries. And in fact, 2 nickel hydrogen batteries are replaced by a single lithium-ion battery. So this is a series of spacewalks that will perform the final, that will finish out all of these battery replacements and everything. They are working on the S6 or starboard truss segment, the outermost of the solar arrays on the starboard side of the International Space Station. And we can go ahead and go on to the next picture here. This is the animation of how they remove some of the batteries and install them and how the EVAs go overall. They have completed one channel already, and they have one remaining channel that will be worked on over the course of the next 2 EVAs. The first of which is actually coming up, according to this handy app called NASASpaceflight, is actually coming up on Monday, July 6th, and that will be the 67th EVA for station upgrade and maintenance. And then US EVA number 68 will follow on Saturday, June 11th. Now, these are being done in part by Bob Behnken and Chris Cassidy. Bob Behnken is currently pictured on your screen there. He is one of the 2 crew members who launched aboard SpaceX's Demo 2 mission in late May from the Kennedy Space Center. And this is exactly why NASA wanted them up there and wanted to extend the Demo 2 mission, because they could get Bob trained and they could actually do these EVAs, whereas if they weren't able to extend the Demo 2 mission, these EVAs would have to wait until the fall. So it was really important to get the crew up there to do these particular EVAs. And you see another picture there of the EVAs. And let's go ahead and go to the next one, DOS, where we can see a dragon in the background, where because one of the things that Bob Behnken was actually able to do was get a picture of the Endeavour crew capsule docked to the International Space Station. And Dos, if we can actually go to the second to last one, the one that says Crew Dragon as seen from EVA, because so you can kind of see them taking the picture of Dragon docked to Node 2 forward. You can see the Japan HTV vehicle berthed to the Earth-facing side of Node 2 there as well. This is the vehicle that brought up the batteries that they are actually installing on the International Space Station, and that will bring back for destructive reentry and disposal the spent ion batteries. And here's one thing that was really cool during the sequence of EVAs. So we have this image right here that Bob Behnken took on the truss of the station, looking at a ship named Endeavour docked to Node 2 forward. And it's not the first time we've had an EVA crew member take a shot of an Endeavour docked to Node 2 forward. That would be this photograph from the final voyage of Shuttle Endeavour back in May of 2011, taken by a spacewalking crew member outward on the truss. So there was some wonderful synergy here of getting these photographs. And of note, too, going back to the EVAs, these have been extremely successful. They have actually been working a little bit ahead of the timelines and getting some get-ahead tasks done to help out the timelines for the remaining set of EVAs that will do the final power channel out on the S6 truss to complete the battery removal and replacement operation.
Am I missing a picture, or what's up?
No. Because I'm sorry, I was done. That was the end of the recap.
Sorry, I was like, is there another picture to show, or what am I supposed to do?
No.
All right. And so y'all know whenever we do the NASA Spaceflight live shows here, we also have live Q&A segments where we bring some things through. So be putting your questions together. I think what we're going to do this time is just do all the questions at the end, and we'll go through all sorts of... Yeah, Chris was doing a battery change. We lost telemetry on Chris there for a second. But what we are going to do today is push our max Q&A over to the end of the segment, and we'll answer all the different questions. This is my bad because I'm trying to juggle a couple audio things at the same time that we're also running the presentations and stuff. I know some of you have noticed that every now and then there's a little bit of pixelation that happens, and we're trying a new remote presentation system so that other people can do remote presentations without needing the studio, and it's apparently not dialed in completely perfectly yet, so we're continuing to work on that, but I appreciate y'all's perseverance. How's that? Does that work? As we continue to move through our NASA Spaceflight Live today. Ian, it looks like you're up next here talking about the launch recap of the week, right?
Yes, I am. And so this week was not that much of a busy week, really. There were only 2 launches, the first of which was the 3rd GPS Block 2 satellite.
Right.
And that was launched on the SpaceX Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral. That was the 3rd GPS Block 3 satellite, the 2nd one that SpaceX has launched, and there will be 10 GPS Block 3 satellites. And SpaceX currently has the contracts for the 4th, 5th, and 6th as well,
right.
And the remainder have yet to be awarded. So that lifted off on June 30th. It was a completely successful launch, successful landing of the first flight of Booster 1060 on the Just Read the Instructions drone ship, and that booster will now be reused for future flights. And then following that, on July 2nd, was the Galloway launch from Tianwan Space Center, or Tianwan Satellite Launch Center in China. That launched on a Long March 4B. And the Galloway also launched with the BY-70-2 CubeSat. So Galloway is a remote sensing satellite. It has a sub-meter resolution, and it's used for multiple purposes, such as urban planning, sorry, I can't forget the word, farming, road planning. It's a multi-use satellite. It's in a sun-synchronous orbit, and it's the first agility-based spacecraft. So it's a new satellite platform for medium Earth orbit observation satellites. And its co-passenger, BY-70-2, is going to be testing image and voice transmission from on orbit from a small CubeSat.
Gotcha. When you say agility-based, what does that mean? Like that's a platform, a design of a stage, or what is that?
So the Agility is a satellite bus, or it's a satellite platform. It's sort of like a base platform that you can build a satellite then off of. And this is the first flight of an Agility.
Okay, gotcha. So it's like it's almost like Kerbal, where you have like a design you can use and you customize it a little bit based on what you need the satellite to
Yep.
do, right?
Yep, it's sort of like a probe core, then you could build off of that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, cool. Because you said agility based, and I'm like, agility based what? It's like designed to skirt around a fire extinguisher or something? What does that mean? All right. And those are the actual launch recap of what happened this week. I always mess this up. Every week I mess this up, and chat needs to start calling me out on it. Like, if y'all just start screaming, that's the future launch schedule, not the past launch whatever. I always show the launch schedule first before I actually... Anyways. This is...
Wouldn't we call that a tradition? Boss?
It is. I mess it up every time. It's so bad. But here is the actual upcoming launch schedule for this week. Right, Chris? This is the right image, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so we've got upwards of 4 actually occurring this week. A couple of, or 3 of them on the same day. So this would get very interesting this week. So on tap for this week, the very first one that we have, which is actually coming up later this evening, on July 4th at 23:45 UTC, which would be 19:45 EDT or 7:45 here on the East Coast of the United States. We have the Shenzhen 2D rocket launching from the Zhuquan Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China that will be taking up the Xi'an 6 satellite, the second of the Xi'an 6 series of experimental satellites, but not much is known about them. They're experimental, and China doesn't really want to say what they're for. So in that regard, they're kind of classified as mysterious, but one of those will be launching later tonight on the Shenzhen 2D from Zhuquan. Then we have the trifecta on July 8th, and boy, do we need a trifecta. We have 1 American and 2 Chinese missions that will be going up on the 8th. The first of which is Starlink. It's the 9th launch of the first version of Starlink satellites. There will be 58 Starlinks and 2 Black Sky satellites for Earth observation on this rideshare mission of the Falcon 9 and Starlink. It will use booster 1051 on its 5th flight, and it will be launching from the Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Following that, we have a Shenzhen 3B rocket that will be launching the AppStar 6D 6D, like the number 6 and the letter D as in dog, telecommunications satellite. This will be going from the Xichang Satellite Launch Center in the People's Republic of China on the Shenzhen 3B. And then, if the schedule holds, this is the one that's a little nebulous, but if the schedule holds, we will have a maiden flight of the Kuizhou 11 satellite, or of the Kuizhou 11 solid rocket vehicle from the Zhuquan Satellite Launch Center in China that would be taking the Jilin and SentiSpace satellites into orbit on its maiden voyage. So when I say a busy week, I really mean a busy July 8th is in store for us around the world.
Cool.
So, and that's what we've got coming up this week.
All right, so that is, I think we're going to try to live stream the Starlink launch, aren't we, on Wednesday?
We definitely are. I will be there at the Kennedy Space Center. Launch is at 12:15 Eastern or 16:15 UTC on July 8th, and we will be there.
Good deal. Amazon willing and the cables arrive. We had to order some new cables for the live stream setup. We were actually going to do the booster stream this morning, and one of our cables went bad, so we were unable to get a live video signal. So, Chris, I don't know if you ordered the 10-pack. That's what I linked you to, but we shouldn't have problems with cables anymore.
I bought whatever you linked.
So we're going to have 10 HDMI cables as part of your Cape Canaveral live stream kit. So when one goes bad, just throw it out the window and plug another one in, okay?
Yeah. Before we move on, Louis Pero had a good question, though, in chat that directly relates to this. Are the China launches going to be live streamed? We do not believe they will be. The live stream of the Bedao 3 launch a couple of weeks ago on the Shenzhen 3BE as it was making its return to flight was really anticipated to be a special occasion because it was a huge mission completing that constellation, also happened to be the return to flight mission of that rocket. So we expect that was more of a one-off than a new way of doing things for tracking.
Gotcha. We sort of look for those, but anytime we get a live stream of that, we're really surprised about it, right?
Yes, exactly. And man, you end up staying up till all hours of the night to watch them because they're so rare.
All right. So, of course, the next thing that we're going to chat about here is everybody's favorite rocket prototype down in Boca Chica, Texas. Let's see what's going on with Starlink, or just Starlink. Well, Starlink 2, kind of. Starship down in Texas. So, let's hop over here. And this is just a free-for-all, it looks like. Yeah, it says everybody, so we'll just hop in and talk about that. It looks like we're starting off with an SN5 test to failure. That sound right to y'all?
Yep.
All right, so
Sounds
that's
right.
what this is. Y'all take it away.
Yeah, so what we're looking at here, this is the SN7 test tank. This is testing a new steel alloy, and you can see there, they did a pretty destructive testing of it to see how far they could push the new design.
Yep.
But this is a 304L series steel, and what that means, it has a lower carbon content, so it makes it the weld's a bit cleaner. And so they're testing out this new design to be used in future starships. And this is one of, we believe, is 2 tanks. Elon has said they'll be making a second one that'll have further improvements over this tank to further push the design and see where the limits are, so they could adjust the designs accordingly to save weight, to save time, things like that. So this was the first test of it. They filled it up with liquid, or this is the second test of it, I believe, actually, where they filled it up with liquid nitrogen, and they kept pressurizing until it burst, and it looked like some welds failed on the bottom to propel it upwards. But overall, looked like to be a pretty successful test, but we don't have any numbers on what the upper pressure limit it reached was.
Gotcha. They tested this one before, and it like sprung a leak on the top, like a weld popped open on the top, and it was leaking on the top, right?
It's like a little fountain of liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, and they fixed that. They closed that up, and then they did another test, and whatever pressure they got to, there's no official announcement on that, but it went pop, and it sort of went skating along the side of the test stand there, right?
Yep.
So I remember we were watching this live when it happened. Boca Chica gal Mary was down there, and she brought us this video live, so it was surprising. We didn't know exactly how it was going to fail. It might have just been a little leak, or it might have been this, which is what happened. So.
Yep, and this occurred a few days before they rolled Starship SN5 to the pad. And what SN5 is, it's another full-scale Starship following on after the SN4 anomaly a few weeks ago. And so SN5 is on the pad right now. They're starting off with testing of it in the coming days, possibly. But right now they have the Raptor. And the Raptor is being installed on it over the next few days. So they completed the cryoproofing, which was when they loaded liquid nitrogen pressurized into the tanks, and the vehicle passed it. It looked like it passed it very well. They tanked it up, they detanked it, and it's still standing, which is a pretty good sign. So over the next few weeks, we'll have Raptor, or the next few days, we'll have Raptor install, possible static fires, maybe pre-burner tests on the Raptor, and if all goes well, maybe we could see a hop sometime soon.
I'll tell you really quickly, this is a time lapse, and we watched this in real time, so y'all are spoiled by being able to watch this thing fill up in the time lapse sort of thing there. We just sat there and we're like, is it more frosty? I think it's more frosty. Yeah, the frost is like going up. I really love the edited video here where was this Jack that sped this one up? Let me see. Oh, does it not? I guess it doesn't say there, does it? Yeah, it is Jack. Okay, that was Jack that did a time lapse of that, but that's all off of the live stream there that we had. So this is one of the tests that we streamed live, right? And then you mentioned Raptor at the pad, and I think, yeah, there's that video of Raptor at the pad. Look at that thing.
Oh, what a coincidence. We have a video of a Raptor at the pad.
It's almost like it was like linked in that order for some reason.
So it's almost like I put it in there or something.
It's like you put it in there.
But yeah, what we're looking at here, this is Raptor SN27. So this is the 27th Raptor built. And this will be installed onto SN5. So SN5 will likely only have one Raptor, and that's to simplify the design. If anything goes wrong, they lose only one engine compared to losing 3 if they had all 3 installed. And so with only one engine, it'll limit SN5 to only shorter hops.
Gotcha.
So this will be a singular engine. They'll be installing it over the next few days, and then they'll be testing it hopefully sometime soon.
Cool. So do we have a line on tests that are going to be happening this week? Like are there some road closures scheduled or anything like that, or what's the deal out there?
I believe I saw some, but I don't remember what days they were.
Gotcha. All right. So y'all, go ahead. Ah.
Okay.
I heard a little voice in my ear say July 8th. In the afternoon, it sounded like. So July 8th. If that sticks, you can bet that we'll try to bring you a live stream down there from Boca Chica so we can see what's up next for the testing, right? And then beyond
can
that,
see in
I
the,
have tons of pictures and stuff here. And Chris, you're on as well if you want to chime in. But what else are we talking about? Do we have anything else in line here?
In line for the show, I don't believe so. I believe we were trying to keep it as brief as possible to get into some Q&A for the last
Yeah,
few
gotcha.
minutes.
There's a
And what you
bunch
can
of
see
nose
here,
cones. Go ahead.
these are 3 nose cones. So the one on the left, I believe the one on the left was built a few months ago.
Right.
But the one in the center and the one on the right, they just popped up overnight. So they've probably been cooking those in the tent behind them for a little while. So now they're about to have 3 flight-ready nose cones. So we don't know what Starship that'll be allocated to. Maybe SN6, maybe SN5 will get it if it passes the tests, or maybe it'll go on to SN8, SN9 or something. But yeah, we'll have to see.
It's crazy because it just looks like warheads stacked up in there. Like that's like the shape of a bullet, and they just keep stacking these bullet shapes up in the place.
I don't think they have a military contract yet.
And not for Starship, right? This one, I'm gonna run through some of the other pictures we have here happening down, because these are all the fantastic images we get from Boca Chica Gal just about every single day. This would be SN5 out at the pad, isn't it? Yeah, this is SN5
Yep.
out at the pad.
That's SN5, and you can see in the corner just sticking up, that's Starhopper.
Yep,
And you can
back
see
down
just
here.
to the right of Starhopper, the little like white poles sticking up, that's the thrust ram. And what they do, they install that underneath the Starship to simulate the load of 3 Raptors when it's fully fueled. And so they do that without a Raptor, so if anything goes wrong, they don't lose an engine.
Gotcha. You mean they actually put this up underneath Starship, and those rams press on the bottom of the bulkhead there, right? Like where the thrust puck, I think it's called.
Yep. And they
Yeah,
remove it to
cool.
make way to bring the Raptor in.
All right, good deal. What else do we have here? Some legs. SN5 has legs. What is this?
Yes, so just have the legs on the inside of the skirt, and what those will do, those will fold down during flight. They fold down about a little bit past 180 degrees, so they stick out a bit further
Right.
than the vehicle itself, and so those will fold out. I'm not sure, we haven't seen a Starship fly yet, so I'm
Right.
not sure if those legs will deploy immediately after liftoff, seconds before landing, middle of flight. I don't know.
Gotcha. And they're kind of tucked up in there because this is Starship, right? Starship is supposed to be the upper part of the Starship Super Heavy thing, so normally there'd be another rocket underneath this, the Super Heavy rocket, and you can't have legs sticking out like on Hopper. Hopper was
Yep.
just to hop, right? So these actually have to fold up into the aft skirt there on Starship there, and then the Raptors would be in the middle of this, right? The Raptors are also sort of tucked up in there.
Yep.
What's interesting, it's surprising to me about this design change, right, is that one of the iterations that we got of Starship, back with the Planet Express ship,
Right.
Drama, it was Elon talking about moving away from deployable legs so that you were so that you weren't introducing more
Right.
complexity
That's like
into
his
the
deal.
system, right? You didn't have to worry about you didn't have to worry about the landing legs deploying. They were physically built into the vehicle, right? And now we've seen them go back to deployable legs. It will be interesting to see if that continues, if this is actually the new design going forward for Starship, or if this is like a testing thing.
Right.
Where maybe they don't need the huge big setup of the permanent legs to do these hops. But it'll be interesting to see, and it'll be interesting when we get the next update from SpaceX, whenever that might be, hopefully sometime this year,
Right.
as to how the design has iterated and evolved since then. Because one of the things I remember Elon saying back last September in Boca was that they were actually, how did he put it? They were actually trying to de-evolve the vehicle, make it even more simple and take stuff out of it. And this just seems like it's gotten more complex than last year in a lot of regards.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And what you can see there in the, it's in about the center upper left. That's a composite overwrap pressure vessel, the black tank there.
Yep,
And what
that's
that's connected to the bottom right of it, we believe that is a roll control thruster. And so what that means is that when there's only one Raptor on Starship, it can control the pitch and the yaw, but it cannot control its roll with just one Raptor. So they need
Right.
thrusters on the outside to be able to rotate it and to make sure it doesn't start spinning during flight. So that's what we believe that is, but it's not 100% sure. It could just be a vent line, but that's possibly what it might be.
Okay, that makes sense because if you have 3 Raptors on the bottom, right, which is the bigger hop setup that we understand. They'll put 3 Raptors on there. Imagine this is the bottom of Starship, like looking up from the bottom, and you have, is it 3 Raptors like in a triangle like this?
Yeah,
1,
like
2,
they're in like
3?
a triangle shape on the inside.
Like a triangle. And so you actually can have a little bit of roll control there, because this Raptor can gimbal a little bit, and this Raptor can gimbal a little bit, that Raptor can gimbal a little bit, and they'll all sort of point off the thrust axis, and they'll make the Starship roll like that. But if you don't have 3, if you only have 1 engine in the middle and you gimbal it, it's going to pitch or yaw you. That's not going to make you roll. So you have to have some sort of other sort of thruster up here, which is what this little thing is. Or I think I circled the right thing there, so that you actually have some roll control, right? That needs to be
that's
fixed.
it.
Gosh, that's getting on my nerves. I'll keep working on that.
Which is true, but Das, you've actually been with me when we saw a single engine actually kill the roll on a rocket. Remember the CRS-16 water landing?
Yes.
Of the booster, where that thing was spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. The grid fins were locked, so they weren't moving.
Yep.
And that single Merlin lit and killed that roll in time for
that's
touchdown
interesting,
into the Atlantic.
because it was like slightly out of control. The engine wasn't actually on the center of mass through the velocity vector it was coming down, right? That thing was falling a little bit sidewards, like this, and so we still had an offset from the direction of motion versus where the engine was affecting. So whatever control software they had on there was smart enough to figure out that they could actually gimbal that single engine a little bit and arrest some of that roll, because if it had been coming straight down like this, that engine wouldn't have been able to do anything. But because it was slightly out of control and it was falling off axis, like sort of tumbling like this, right? It was actually able to get a little bit of a lever arm on it. And you're absolutely right. The software was smart enough to correct the roll, and it actually came down and landed, and then it was targeting the water, so it fell over after that, right?
Yeah, because I'm sure people are going to say, oh, but the landing legs help too. But the larger point I was trying to make there is that engine did 95% of that roll kill on its own before the legs popped out, for when it sensed it was close to the ground. It was just, that's still one of the most amazing landings I think I've ever seen. Yeah,
that was cool.
I was watching it. I forget where I was watching it, but anyway, I was watching. I was like, as soon as I started losing control on the way down from the onboard camera, I was like, "This is it. I cannot watch another booster fail." And I shut it off, thinking that it was a failed landing. And then I came back on,
and I had to keep tracking it. I had to watch, like Robot Chicken. Like my eyes had toothpicks in them, like glued to the screen.
And then I came back like 10 minutes later, and I'm like, "Wait, that kind of landed? What? How did that happen?"
I remember when we were watching it, because our vantage point DOS made it look like it had actually made it to the landing pad.
I thought it was on the landing pad.
And then it starts to tip, and both of us, there's that ugly Christmas sweater that someone made a printout of for us of both of us screaming in unison, "No, no, 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 no," as it started to tip, and as it started to tip over, and then like it disappears, and we all hold our breath, and we're like, "It didn't explode. It didn't explode. It's in the water."
Oh, geez. Let's go on to this picture here, and I can actually bring up that video really quickly because that's cool. But this is an awesome picture. The Raptor SN5. We had the video before, but this right here, y'all talk about that, and I'll bring up a video.
Well, first, I have to hand it to you. That photo, the composition, everything Mary was able to do with that photo is just outstanding and killer. I mean, that's the very first thing. I mean, I gasped when I saw that. It was so crisp and clear, and I mean, the lighting angles, even just outside, were just so perfect. But I mean, you look at the complexity of that engine, right? And you also realize how much they want to reuse that thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's just, the Raptor is just an incredible piece of engineering.
Yep.
Yeah, like I could look at those pictures for days. That is a gorgeous piece of machinery right there.
You want to trace where everything goes, like, okay,
exactly.
This is the thing.
I remember someone posted a picture. I think it was like a fan-made diagram of every pipe and how every pipe in Raptor worked, like an exploded view, kinda. And I looked over that for like I'd say at least an hour or two, just tracing. Okay, that goes there, that comes back up and around, and it's just like, oh, I love it so much.
Alrighty, let's see what else we have here. Another test stand, new tower on a tank. I mean, we're getting to a lot of the just basic stuff. Here was a wacky one. Hopper's new lights.
Oh, where it either looked like a Cylon or Jack called it a rave.
Yeah. It's like Gort or something like that.
Yes.
new lights on there. We were all sort of speculating what they were for. Were they turtle-safe lights so that the sea turtles wouldn't get scared away from the area? I don't know that we know exactly what they're for. There's a lot of speculation, but I haven't seen an official word on that, right?
I mean, from someone who lives in Daytona Beach, where we have sea turtle nesting season, and we have a lot of things that we have to follow regulation-wise on beach side,
Yep.
That's exactly what they look like to me.
That's what they look like?
They look like work lights that are designed and meet the Environmental Protection Agency standards for not attracting sea life away from the beach.
Gotcha.
Or allowing them to get confused, when they try, or when the hatchlings try to go to the water.
Right.
And things like that.
Because that was the thing.
Yeah.
Somebody said, like, oh, yeah, they're anti-turtle lights. And we're like, anti-turtle lights? But we sort of figured out that it's turtle-safe lights is the better way to say it, as opposed to anti-turtle lights. Like, they try to confuse the turtles to keep them away from the pad.
There's a conspiracy against turtles by SpaceX.
Right.
Oh, let's see. Oh, Hoppy got some radar as well. And then I do want to save some time for the Max Q&A here at the end. But there's that little radar dome. Weren't they installing even more stuff over there? There's that tower. They got a little weather station or something?
Yeah, they got there's a radar on top. That could be probably just for making sure the area is clear during Starship flights.
Yep.
But also they installed a bunch of cameras and intercom speakers on there. I believe there's actually videos up on Twitter of them announcing like shift is over or whatever, like lunch break or something.
Right.
And they also have some red lights. I'm not sure if they're like infrared lights for heat, like on colder nights or something, but there's some red lights on the side of it, which look pretty neat, to be honest.
Oh. I think they should just make the inside of Hopper an office and put like observation windows in there and then make it like bulletproof or something like that, like hardened. Put another couple layers of stainless steel in there so you can sit in there and watch the test like right next to it.
I mean, it's 13 millimeter thick steel, so that thing
know.
could probably withstand something.
It's already like well, I was going to make a bad joke about it being a tank, but
They could just use it as a water tower, to be honest.
Hey, water towers do fly.
Water towers
do
can fly.
Let me grab this one.
Or maybe use it as
here.
a grain silo.
Yeah, silos. It looks like a silo. It looks like. Actually, this is like Elon's massive brewing operation in South Texas right now. It looks like a brewery.
Boca Chica Brewing Company.
I like it.
I mean, I'd see what they had to offer.
I'd give it a try. Like it's already hops, right? There's so many hops.
Oh
puns
my
and stuff like that. Star hopper. Hoppy.
Dad joke for the win, yes!
Right there with beer brewing.
Starship
anyways,
hops and
how
barley.
About we pop over to some Max Q&A and see if we can't run through some of the questions. I know we've been saving this towards the end today. We spent some time on Rocket Lab. We spent some time on technical difficulties, which we still haven't completely lined out. But we'll keep working on it. Y'all want to do some Q&A?
Absolutely.
My question is, why does it keep going purple rave mode? Why it shouldn't do that. It wasn't doing that before, and now it's doing that. Thank you. Anyways. Q&A. Let's bring up some questions here. We've got a couple of them. Oh, super chats. Let me grab the super chats real quick. Harry Young, thank you for the support there. Lucky 13 too soon. Talking about the Rocket Lab launch there. We didn't skip that number and we went from 12 to 14, and that just is what it is. We appreciate the support there, Harry. We never want to see a rocket not succeed in its mission, so that's tough for Rocket Lab out there today. Jala J, what is that? That's 10 Australian dollars. Thank you, Jala J, for the support. Sam Halter, maybe testing the audio to destruction would yield some fireworks. We should test our audio to destruction. Do you know how many times I've wanted to test the audio to destruction? A lot of times, but we'll unplug and replug everything, see if we can line some of the stuff out.
All you have to go do is watch my reaction and listen to my reaction of the Demo 2 launch, which could be heard clear as day a quarter of a mile away on Tim Dodd's stream.
Speaking of testing the audio to destruction. Oh, no. And
I mean, I can't blame you. I would have been screaming, too, if I was down there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was at an Antares launch, like NG-12 or whatever, and I started to yell, and I was like, oh, no, they're live streaming 2 feet to my left, and I had to quiet myself.
It happens.
No, never. Scream away.
I can actually hear myself on the replay video.
And then finally, Don Terralio there. Thank you for the 20 CHFs. Happy 4th of July from Switzerland. Hyped for the Starship testing. Don, thank you so much for the support there. We appreciate you. Let's see if we can speed run some questions. We got about 10 minutes worth of questions here. I'm just going to run down the list, and let's see how quickly we can go through some of these. First one, it's Astro Coda. When can we expect a static fire at Boca Chica? Y'all have any over-unders on when that Raptor will get installed and we might see a fill in a static fire?
I would say if they go by their standard procedures, Raptor is there. So this week.
This week? I'd be down if.
I mean, I base that seriously. I mean, I say that in some jest, but I mean it actually quite seriously. I mean, it's not long after Raptors get installed that they start going through their propellant tests, their ambient checks, their oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on the term where they don't light the engine, but they do
spin primes and
spin prime. Yes,
yep.
yes. And all of those tests, and that usually leads into a static fire very, very quickly. So I would not be surprised if we have a static fire this week of SN5.
Cool. That sounds good to me. I'm going to keep speed running the questions here. Let's see. Oh, well, here's one. Olin Rip, do you think they'll get the 20-kilometer hop by August? And that's a super chat as well. Thank you, Olin. 20-kilometer hop by August, yes or no? It's July 4th.
I don't think so.
Right?
No.
I mean, it's already a couple days into July.
Like, unless they put 3 Raptors on SN5, which I don't even know if it is designed to take 3 Raptors,
right?
It would be very close, like, to bring SN6 out or whatever the next one would be. I can't see it happening in August. Maybe by the end of this year, probably, but...
Within 2 months, is it possible to get through the SN5 test campaign, and if that goes completely well, or I should say goes well enough that they feel like they can go for it on the 20-kilometer hop, I wouldn't say there's anything that would technically prohibit them from doing it by August. But a lot would have to go absolutely perfectly with SN5. And of course, the big thing SN5 is actually trying to test here is the 150-meter hop. The up, translate over, come back down, and deploy your landing legs. But again, if that all goes well, I mean, they could certainly take a chance, because one thing we know about SN6 is it's the last of these versions of Starship before they switch over to the new steel construction and SN8, right? Which we know will be more in line with the current design. So I can see them saying, hey, we've got this, why not see what it does?
Yep.
Yeah, possibly.
Cool. I mean, I love to see it. I think if everything goes exactly right, like no more RUDs and that sort of stuff, then it's probably possible. But I mean, setting back is even almost the wrong word, because when they test up to destruction, they know these things are going to happen. It's almost not even really a setback. It's something that they were sort of planning for. But I think if they go through all of their actual test campaigns where they're not intentionally trying to break something, and they get through all of those without any massive failures, like a leak is one thing, this is one thing, like something that would destroy the pad or damage the infrastructure, that takes more time to recover from. And they're fast at recovering from it, but I think it's going to depend on whether or not we can we can get through those tests without it. Let's grab some more questions here and say, let's see here. This one looks like it's about Perseverance. It's Daniel Stein, and Daniel said, how will they insert the RTG for the rover just before launch? So who wants to take that?
I could take that one. So what they do with there's a hatch on the payload fairing, and just before launch, like pretty much like the last possible minute they could do it, they would be, and this is not like 10 minutes before launch, this would be like a few days beforehand, but they'll open up a hatch on the fairing, and they'll have a professional team who's specifically trained to install RTGs onto rovers. They'll have them go up pretty much by themselves and open up the hatch and install the RTG, hook up all the wiring on it, close the hatch, and then the rover will be basically completely finished and ready for launch. Gotcha. So it'll be happening, I'm not sure the exact timeline, maybe a few days before launch, maybe like a week or two, but it'll be pretty close to the launch date, and it's not installed yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. About a week before is when they put it in, before they have to do the closeouts in the vertical integration facility and haul Atlas out to the pad. One thing of note to that for the RTG, though, is for those of you who are going to want to come and actually watch this, while I certainly would not recommend that for public safety and public health reasons, bear in mind that when we launch rovers with RTGs, radioisotope thermoelectric generators,
Right.
nuclear power, the launch exclusion zone is usually larger. So don't expect Playa Linda to be open. Expect the roads to close at Hollover Canal and Max Brewer Parkway Bridge. A lot of beach viewing locations will be closed as added precautions for this.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought
Yeah.
about that. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. Now, to note too, they are contained within vessels that will be able to survive
Right.
a launch failure.
Right.
And that is an EPA mandate so that they do not spread nuclear contamination into the atmosphere.
Gotcha. All right, let's keep hitting some more questions here, see if we can get through many. Here's a quick one, and Chris, this one's for you. Can you explain why the Ethernet cable they installed during the second spacewalk looks strange? Was there an Ethernet cable that got installed?
There was an Ethernet cable that they installed. I did hear them send Chris Cassidy back to the airlock to get it. I did not actually see a picture of this, so I have no idea.
Okay.
But off the top of my head, what I can say is most likely, if it looked strange, it would be because of all the thermal and radiation protection that they would wrap around
Right.
it. On the outside of the station, things always look different because of how we have to modify them for use
It's like a space Ethernet cable,
space.
right? It's not just a...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anytime
But
you
it's a
make
good question,
space
but I
Ethernet-
actually did see it, so
Yeah. Gotcha. I'm going to keep speeding around questions, see if we can get through many. Hey, Sarah, thank you so much for the membership there. That's a welcome to the Red Team. We appreciate the support right there. Martin Smith, does Rocket Lab now have to compensate its customers for the loss of the cargo? So this is like hot off the presses sort of news. We saw that Pixar didn't happen. Launch, they confirmed that there was a failure, loss of vehicle. What happens when that happens? Do they pay for the payloads? It's like insured payloads. Who can explain that real quick?
Yeah. So with luck, the payload customers insured their payloads, and the insurance companies would do the payout.
Gotcha.
Now, what usually happens is if they wish to fly again once they get the insurance money, companies usually offer a free refund
Right.
as compensation.
So they
from
might get another payload because it was insured, and then Rocket Lab would give them another ride because the loss of vehicle is sort of their deal, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yes. Now, if the payloads were not insured, that's a whole different.
And I hate to
animal.
even say it that way, like, oh, the loss of vehicle was sort of their deal. I mean, but it is on them if the payload didn't make it to orbit, right?
Yes, I mean in the baseline.
Yeah,
sense, It is on Rocket
Yep.
Lab. Yeah.
Let me keep grabbing some things here. Richard Frost, where do I look for when NASA Spaceflight live events are happening? On Twitter, Discord, web URL? If you see something appear here on the channel, so follow us and make sure the little bell is rung and it's set to all notifications. Anytime we go live, it'll tell you. You can configure it to tell you on your phone. It can send you messages, like whatever. It can pop it up if you're somewhere else on YouTube. Also, we usually tweet about it. So if you follow the actual NASA Spaceflight account, at NASASpaceflight, make sure you're following all the presenters, like myself, like Chris Gebhardt, like Ian, Next Spaceflight, all the different people who may be involved. Boca Chica Gal, you'll usually see some tweets or retweets from them when we're doing something as well. We don't have like an exact schedule that says this week here's what we're streaming, because the schedule is so fluid, right? It moves around, and a lot of times it may be 24 hours beforehand where we know, okay, yes, we can get a camera there to schedule it. But I can get that one because I do a lot of the streaming stuff, right? Good question. Just follow us on Twitter and make sure you ring the bell on YouTube, or your best things there.
But what I will add as a caveat to that is that, and like our live streams can vary quite a bit depending on launch schedules and test schedules.
Right.
But if the question is specifically about NSF Live, our weekly show,
Right.
that show is every Saturday,
Every Saturday.
at 1700 EDT, 2100 UTC.
Yep, absolutely. And that one is sort of an exception case where if we're not going to do it, then we'll tell you, as opposed to otherwise just assume that it's going to happen at 5 p.m. Eastern every day. Let me grab, just one more question. I'm going to try to find something that was really crazy here. Let's see. You know something?
While you do,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, while you do that, I wanted to give one last update that ULA actually took possession of the Pathfinder of the BE4 engine for Vulcan.
That's the one I was going to put on screen. There it is.
Ah, okay.
Because we haven't talked about that at all, but that was sort of a thing that we got a big picture of this BE4, right?
It was. Great minds think alike there, because I did see that in chat, and I was like, oh yeah, that is a good thing to talk about. But yes, The Pathfinder arrived, so this is what will help ULA understand the ground handling elements for the BE-4 engine, installing it into Vulcan, but it is not, according to Tori Bruno, the flight engine, one of the flight engines for the first Vulcan. But taking possession of that Pathfinder is a huge step forward as Vulcan marches toward its first launch sometime next year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that one in there, and we hadn't talked about that. A lot of people saying, oh, this engine is so complicated, look how... And then Tori's like, yeah, because it's censored out the wazoo. It has all the different sensors that are going to be needed on it. Normally people don't show pictures of rocket engines like this. So that was sort of a thing that came down the pipe. I did want to mention one more thing. That's going to bring up the end of the show here today. As always, we never get through all the questions. We sort of get off into the weeds sometimes, and we're all excited about talking about stuff, especially when it comes to Starship and new engines to look at. And Rocket Lab did a launch that we spent 30, 40 minutes on. Technical issues and all the things we did today. We appreciate everybody hanging out for us for NASA Spaceflight Live, and I want to personally say thank you. Thank you for putting up with our technical hiccups that we had today. I know that we had some challenges. We thought that we had it dialed in a little bit better than we were. We were trying to make it so that we could do lots of different types of streams using this new cloud infrastructure instead of having like a $10,000 worth of hardware in a studio here and me having to always run it. We're trying to push this out so that we can do a lot of different cool things with this cloud server. So I appreciate y'all asking or bearing with me as we dealt with those technical questions today. Really quickly, Olin Riffle there. Olin Riffle just did another super chat. What methane engine will get to orbit first? You have one word. What methane engine will get to orbit first? This was specifically for you, Chris.
Oh, what do you mean?
You gotta do it. It's the super chat. You got to do it.
Get to orbit first. At this point, I honestly think it's a draw.
It's a draw. At the same time.
If we're talking orbit, I would argue it's a draw right now.
Okay. Too early to know for sure, huh?
Yep. I mean, just because yes, we've seen a lot of progress with Raptor on its test stand, and we saw it fly once with Hopper, right? But there's a lot to do with Starship, right? And we know that SpaceX has no desire at this point to do single-stage orbit with Starship, so they need super heavy. So with that, I'm going to go it's a wash right now between Raptor and BE-4.
Gotcha. Hey, that's fair enough. And you see how we get to 6:33, 6:35. The show's supposed to end at 6:50, but I'm like, Chris, you have one word, and then we talk about it for 3 minutes. So...
Well, because that's what that means,
yeah,
right?
it adds up over time because we're all so excited about this stuff. But that is going to bring us to the end of NASA Spaceflight Live today. I'm going to show you one more thing. This may be a new thing. Not a lot of people know about this. I don't know if anybody noticed what I was wearing today. But if you pop on over to NASASpaceflight.com, if you're lazy, I'll put the link in chat for you right there. And you go up here, there is a new shop. You see this right here? Look, I'll even illustrate it for you. Right up here, it goes like it's right there. If you click on shop, you can grab some cool NASA Spaceflight merch, like this fine embroidered polo shirt. It looks official now that I've got here. There's like beach towels. There's Orange Rocket Good. The next time we do some Starship testing, I've got one of these here at the house as well. The Roadside Rocket Science t-shirt. That's on the store over there. I've got one. I'm just waiting until we do Starship testing before I buy it. There's a lot of different things over there, and this is another way you can support the stream and have a cool... The Endeavor one's really cool. I'm not going to go through all of them. The Eat, Sleep, Launch, Repeat's really cool. Across the board, there's a bunch of cool stuff over there on the shop. Again, it's NASA Spaceflight.
And I've got to hand it to Julia, who came up with the idea for the "Of Course I Still Love You" beach blanket.
Yeah. Of course I still lie here beach towel she's got.
Of course I still lie here, yes.
Yeah. So, hey, I'm not going to try to shill it out too much or anything like that, but NASASpaceflight.com/shop, or actually just click on shop. What is it? Yeah, it is /shop. And there's a couple different things in there, and then we can all sort of be together wearing our Rocket Nerd t-shirts or apparel or whatever next time we get to come together for a live stream. But like I said, that is going to be the end of NASA Spaceflight Live today. Did I miss anything, guys? That's right on the outro. Yes, okay, let's do it right now. We also want to thank everybody who makes these streams possible. Thank you to our members, the launch directors over there, Adam, Amd, Bear, Caption, CS Dan Straight, Dave Wolf, Enables, F Allen 46, who else? FHM Consulting, Gerard, We got Greg, Harry, Jared, Camper News Networks, Kevin O'Grady, Let's Gross. We got Mark Sullivan, Mark Foster, Olin Riffle, Plush Vader, and Ray Yunkins. And then the flight engineers, Aces Down One, Richard Egert, and Wesley Evans. Thank you all so much for the support and making it so that it's possible for us to keep on bringing these streams to you. Again, we appreciate everybody making these things happen. Now, did I miss anything else? Or can I say thanks to these people's names and Twitter handles? I think we're good? All right, I think we're good. All right. So today, your subject matter experts, your hosts here, we'll just go from the top to the bottom. Up there at the very top, Brady Bunch style, Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor at ChrisG_NSF on Twitter. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
Alrighty, and then right here, right above me, Ian Atkinson. Ian, thank you for joining us today. You're Ian Pineapple, right, on Twitter?
Yeah. Yep.
Ian Pineapple.
Always great
on
to be
Twitter.
here.
Good deal. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ian, and walking us through some of those news segments. And then I'm over here. I'm John Galloway. If you're watching my Twitch stream, you may know me as DOS. I'm the guy to blame when the audio is not exactly right, but I'm also the guy who's going to spend the next week trying to make the audio better so that next time we do NASA Spaceflight Live, it's dialed in a little bit better than this time. Also, those purple pixels need to go away as well. I'll work on it. I know the guy that wrote that software, so we will continue to try and make things better every single time. We're 7 minutes overdue now, so we will go ahead and say thank you and good night for NASA Spaceflight Live this week. We will see you nerds later. And our mics are naturally not clear. Oh, they're not clear yet, but hey, visuals, Jack Bear and Brady Kinniston, thank them so much for doing video editing and stuff like that. Production over there, Michael Baylor behind the scenes at Next Spaceflight, also helping make all this stuff work. And then Ian also doing some of the links and stuff like that on the back end. But we appreciate everybody who comes together to make these NASA Spaceflight Lives shows possible. And now we'll do the outro and we'll say, we'll see you nerds later. Next time, be looking for a Starship testing later this week. Show up in a t-shirt. Later, nerds.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Alright, the chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, planet. Flight down, feed off. Feed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.